Hello, hello, hello. Sorry for being a minute late, everyone. I couldn't get the internet connection to work, but we got it now. How are you all doing? Hope you're all having a good Friday. I'm just getting Nina on the line now. Here we go. Hey, Nina, how are you?
Really good. How are you?
Yeah, doing pretty well. If you can hear the rain in the background, I apologize. It's a wet and stormy day here in Perth for a change.
Wow. Okay. That's really interesting because I'm in Sydney and
hmm
we were supposed to have thunderstorms according to the weather, and it's
hmm
been all sunny all day.
Oh, beautiful.
Not a drop of rain.
That's great. Hopefully, it stays sunny for the weekend for you so you can get out and do a few park picnics and things like that.
Yeah, right. Here's hoping. Here's
Yeah,
hoping. Or
fingers
maybe it'll be
crossed.
the other way around. When they say it's going to be sunny, then it rains. And when they say it's going to be rainy, then it's sunny. But who knows? It's
So
all good
just be
time.
prepared for all things. Take a raincoat with you just in case.
Everything. Yeah. Raincoat, sunglasses, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so let's get started. First, I just want to know a bit about you. So introduce us to who you are. Tell us a little bit about eco styles and what it is that you do.
Okay. So Nina Gabor. Um, I has been working in sustainable fashion space for many years before it
Mhm,
was kind of a thing. Um, how I started. So Eco Styles is my website, my platform, is the place where I express my ideas and my thoughts, my research, my articles. And it's also the place where I post a lot of my outfits, a
mhm,
lot of my personal style, and kind of try to relate those outfits to concepts in sustainable fashion or my personal stories or experiences.
mhm,
Then, how did I get started? Really interesting, right? When I was a little girl, I used to watch classic films with my mom,
mhm,
and like 40s, 50s, and 60s stuff, right? With like Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly, and so that's where my love for style came from, right? As a little girl, I thought that's what it meant to be to grow up to be a woman, to dress like that. Um,
mhm,
so vintage, right? So I grew up in the States. When I was a teenager, my family we moved back to Nigeria,
mhm,
where I was originally from. And it was there I discovered secondhand shopping. I mean, my mom used to buy stuff for us from like Salvation Army, and I used to wear my brother's hand-me-downs. But I think that was the age where I kind of started to own my style, and I discovered op shopping right in Nigeria, in West Africa. And of course, this is the stuff that's like imported from like the global north, Australia, UK,
mhm.
US, and stuff. And I saw vintage pizzas for the first time, and I was freaked. I was like, oh my gosh. And these stores, they had like vintage, they had like contemporary stuff. And so I guess that was when my eco styling career was born, even though I didn't know it at the time. So
Mhm.
I've always, sort of been into sustainable fashion, even though I didn't call it that at the time. And for about 10, 11 years, I've been hosting clothes swaps. So I lived in the UK before I moved to this merry land of Oz. And when I moved to Australia in 2015, I was hosting clothes swaps. And that was kind of my entry into it officially as a career, I would say. And I was also posting op shop outfits, which I must admit, back in 2015, that wasn't really a thing. Like people are like,
Mhm.
why would you want to wear people's trash? And that sort of mindset. They didn't say that verbally, but it was that kind of
Mhm.
attitude. So it just makes me really grateful that now sustainable fashion is such a global movement and everybody wants to get into circularity and secondhand. It's just really exciting to witness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think for you as a young teenager, starting to op shop for the first time, that's a really powerful way to develop your own sense of style because often when you're shopping secondhand, you can't rely on what's on trend. You have to rely on what you like, what colors suit you, what style suits you. So it's a really powerful way of forming who you, Nina, as a person are and what you like to wear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think shopping secondhand is the best because it helps you, especially as a young person, like you just said, it helps you discover who you are. Because you can't rely on trends, right? You're just going into this place where it's up to your own sort of intuitive guidance and feel and attraction to colors to select what you want. And I think it's such a good way to develop a strong character and also build up your confidence. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's such a great opportunity that we have, those of us who are into it.
Yeah, and that's such a great story. That's such a great origin story for you, from where you started to where you are now. It seems like you've come full circle and you've found your real purpose and passion in life.
Yeah, yeah, it totally feels like it because I didn't choose it as a career. It kind of chose me.
Hmm.
Um, I thought I would be, because I have a master's in international development from the UK, and I thought I'd grow up and be working in some UN organization doing development work, which is fantastic. I love it. But the truth is, I'm so not an office person. I think I'm more a flea market, vintage hunter-gatherer type of person.
Yeah.
So it's just really beautiful that all my life experiences have just sort of organically brought me here just through
Hmm.
happenstance. And it's so fulfilling. Like I couldn't be happier and more grateful and especially to be doing it in Australia as well is such an opportunity and a blessing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just something I love sharing with people and getting as much people into it as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're talking about everything to do with circular economy today, particularly in the fashion industry. So for those that are watching who may have no idea what we're referring to when we say circular economy, do you want to just give us a quick rundown as to what that is and especially what that means within the fashion industry?
Yeah, totally. So circular economy in general, first of all, is basically it's designed on basically three fundamental principles. So we're looking at, eliminating waste and pollution
Mhm.
through the design of circular economy. We're looking at keeping products and materials in use for as long as possible. And we're also looking at, generating nature, natural systems like ecosystems and all whatnot. So translating that into fashion is basically reusing, recycling, upcycling, mending as far as we can possibly take a garment until it can't be used anymore. Or not just garments,
Yeah.
but apparel until they can't
Mhm.
possibly be used anymore. So I think within fashion the concept is catching on, but unfortunately it doesn't feel like it's not catching on quick enough.
Mm.
Um,
And I think that's the struggle because at the moment it kind of feels like a race against time, right? When it comes to
yeah.
climate change and the climate emergency, and it does feel like I don't know whether it is the same on a global level, but particularly here in Australia, it does feel like we're a little bit slow. Would you agree? Yeah.
Yes, but we do have a pretty strong movement in Australia
Hmm.
in the sustainable and ethical fashion community. If you compared it, I think per capita globally, I think Australia comes off pretty strong as well.
Hmm.
I can't speak for the rest of Australian industries, but I'm really proud of the work that collectively we're doing here. Organizations like yours and many
Hmm.
others are kind of leading the way in specific areas. So,
Hmm.
you know, with all that's going on in the world, who knows? I think people generally are looking for alternatives because we're beginning more and more people are beginning to recognize that the systems that we have are not working,
Yeah.
and if we don't change soon, it's all going to come crashing down. So I think so long as we keep pushing, we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to be fine. I think we're people are going to it's really going to gain momentum and really take off.
Yeah. So we've just
Mhm.
touched on that importance with climate change. Why else is it important for us to get circular? Obviously, at a individual level, not as a corporation, big business level, because I suppose people lead the change, right?
Yeah,
Corporations will only be providing things for people as long as they're demanding it. Would you agree?
yeah, absolutely. Well, ways it can be circular on a personal level. I mean, did you say why is
Why?
important? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. No, that's okay.
It's such a big topic, right? It's such a big conversation. It's like, well, it's so much
It's
of
it's a huge
gargantuan.
conversation. I think we could chat for hours all about circular economy and not
Um,
even scratch the surface.
Ethan, not even on the slightest. Um, why? I mean, so we talk about, we all know fashion is super polluting, right? One of the most polluting industries.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a UN statistic about how it's about 10% accountable for about 10% of, CO2 emissions towards climate change. And, you talk about things like biodiversity loss, which fashion plays a part. You talk about things like uh, poisoning fresh waters, with toxic
Mm-hmm.
chemicals. Fashion is also responsible for deforestation. There's so many different things. And of course, landfill, environmental waste. So why it's important is that when we all switch and when we all join a circular economy, we start engaging more and more in secondhand because there are so many clothes. It mitigates the environmental impact that fashion is having through manufacture, supply chain, sourcing, and disposal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's incredibly critical if you're someone who is cautious about, your footprint. You're someone who wants to make a difference in your life and to the world at large. I think that's really important. Now, on a an even more personal level, it's really important because, we were just talking about how, you know, being exposed to this plethora of secondhand from so many different eras. I mean, just imagine if, like, to me, when I walk into like a vintage store or my favorite, like a vintage flea market, oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, it's like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for me. I get so excited. I forget who I'm with. I've been known to lose my handbag. This is really bad. This is a true story. I've been known to lose my handbag, to leave it at one stall because I just forget myself. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like everywhere, right? And I've been really lucky that the sellers have like kept my handbag aside from me. I have lost it like up to 3 times. It's just amazing. You're exposed to like fashion from nearly every era and so many
Mm-hmm.
different cultures and styles.
Yeah.
And it's like you can just pick and choose what works for you as an individual, not just colors, but lace things and circles and
Mm-hmm.
tartan. And you can incorporate all of this into your own individual unique style, because in my opinion, style is about expressing who you are. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like a thumbprint or a fingerprint. I feel like two people don't exactly have the same style. Everyone has their unique style because we're such individuals. And the opportunity to express that through what you wear is just amazing, right? And it's your way of saying to the world, this is who I am, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for those of
Yeah.
us who buy secondhand and acquire through secondhand, I think that we're really blessed to be able to, I don't know, experience that basically. So I think for the individual is such a great way, like we said earlier, to know who you are, express it through what you wear, and also develop yourself, grow personally from it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to following trends, I think that the longer as an individual we follow trends, the less of our I don't want to say it chips away at our self-esteem. It's not that at all, but there are parts of ourselves that perhaps we don't really, that doesn't unfurl, that
Mm.
we might not realize until we start really shopping secondhand, right? Because there's just
Yeah.
something magical about it. Just opens you up to parts of yourself that you previously perhaps didn't think of or knew existed or just sort of kept on the back burner. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think,
my feeling.
yeah, I think, it's not that it chips away your self-esteem, but you don't have a sense of self,
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah,
You don't have a sense of who you are, as of your individuality, of your core values as well. Because I think a lot of people shop secondhand because at their core, their values are that they care about the environment, they care about the planet. They want to do something good with the power that they have as a consumer.
for sure. For sure. I mean, I totally agree. And I think people are beginning to discover that with the power of secondhand. I mean, when I started posting secondhand outfits, I think it was back in 2015, 2016,
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of people were into it, whether it was Instagram, Facebook. It wasn't that common, right? It was still all this
Yeah.
thing about trends. And now the amount of accounts I see, like it's endless. The amount of eco stylists, sustainable stylists, and
Mm.
people who are even maybe like lifestyle bloggers who are now posting about secondhand, people who are florists and just these other industries that are more about, you know, something not necessarily related to fashion, but sort of more lifestyle. Everyone or food, for example, are all talking about secondhand fashion. So I think that notion is really catching on.
Yeah.
And my hope is that in the future, in the near future, like probably in the next 3 to 5 years, it almost all becomes like secondhand is just like the status quo. We're not
Yeah.
even calling it secondhand. It's just is. Like when
Yeah.
we post stuff, we don't have to say, "Oh, I bought it pre-loved at so and so vintage store." It's just I bought this dress. It happens to be a vintage dress, right? And everyone
Yeah.
knows the vintage, right? So that's
Yeah.
what I'd love to see in the future with
Yeah. And
secondhand.
I think the data is supporting that as well. The data is showing that we are going to be moving towards more of a second-hand market than a fast fashion market. I think it was set to overtake the fast fashion market by 2030, which is just incredible. And what an amazing change we'll get to see in the world once we hit that target.
Yeah, that will be beautiful. But my worry with that is, because at the moment we're still throwing away a lot to landfill, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it's a weird cycle because it is the fast fashion market that's partially fueling the secondhand market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like almost like the circularity is relying a little bit on the fast fashion market, which we want to end. So I think the less we start throwing away now, the more that we can sort of pull up all of those, beautiful, nice clothes and resources and kind of just keep that going.
Yeah.
Because
And I think,
we can't get it back from the landfill. I don't think.
yeah.
Okay.
And that goes back to a really good point about what you were saying when you were talking about developing your own sense of style in buying secondhand. If you're buying things that you know suit you and your body, are classics, and you're buying them secondhand and they're good quality, they're more likely to last you for 10, 20, 30 years, which means it's not going to be sent to landfill. And I think the idea of buying once and buying well is a really powerful message to get out to people in the terms of the circular economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think people are becoming more conscious of the quality of stuff they buy firsthand. But it's going to take a while before we get to the majority of people doing that. But yeah, I think it's definitely catching on, which is really exciting as well.
Yeah. So in terms of how we can get circular, we've talked about buying well, we've talked about shopping secondhand, obviously. Are there any other ways that we can get circular at the moment?
For sure. So restyling,
Mm-hmm.
and that's becoming more popular. So wearing one garment in 5 different ways or 6 or
Mm-hmm.
10 different ways. There's so many style challenges on Instagram that people can take inspiration from. And trust me, it works wonders for your wardrobe. When you think, you have a friend's wedding, when we're allowed to go for weddings again, and everyone goes out and buys something new. But if you just take an ordinary dress in your closet and just accessorize it or mix it with something else, even a shirt and a different clutch, you'll be shocked at how beautiful you can, how easily and how beautiful you've created a brand new outfit that's particularly appropriate for
Mm-hmm.
the event you're going to. So one way to do that is just throw a bunch of clothes. I know this sounds really crazy. I learned this when I recently moved from Melbourne to Sydney, and I did this by
Mm-hmm.
accident where, I had a bunch of my clothes because I was going to pack, and I started to see different combinations that I could possibly potentially make with different garments that I had never thought of before. So it
Yeah.
was kind of a happy accident that happened. Another thing is clothes swaps. I mentioned earlier, I've been doing clothes swaps for over a decade before the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
in-person swaps. So that's an easy, very affordable way to get good quality clothes. Host clothes swaps in your community. Your community could be online, offline. It could be your office, your business, schools, maternity clothes swaps. It could be size inclusive clothes swaps. So you can host clothes swaps for sizes 14 and upwards, because I know that's a big issue for a lot of women.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are 2 things that I think can support a circular economy, regardless of budget.
Yeah, amazing. Now I'm going to open it up to questions from the audience. Seen lots of lovely comments coming through saying how beautiful you're doing, Nina, and you are. You're such a great public speaker. It's such a joy to listen to you talk about the circular economy.
Thank you.
But while I'm waiting for any questions to come in, what sort of impact does buying secondhand actually make in terms of the circular economy, in terms of climate, you know, in practical terms, what impact are we making as secondhand shoppers?
Um, in terms of impact, I think, we talk about the environment, we've mentioned that before.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see it, and I'm sure there's data on it, but I haven't really looked yet. But it's having such an impact on the environment because, if we're buying secondhand, which means that we're not buying new, so there's if enough of us do it, there's less brand new garments being manufactured because the
Mm-hmm.
demand is less, right? So that means there's some of the plant and animal species that might have been eroded because of deforestation, for example, to grow more cotton, will be
Mm-hmm.
saved.
Yeah.
And less fresh water will be polluted. Just because we're recycling stuff we already have, we're buying secondhand as opposed to buying new. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and for ourselves, I think as an individual, I think it just makes you so much more creative. I've met people. I used to style one on one. I don't really do that
Mm-hmm.
anymore, but I would when I would style a client, so sometimes it would be a corporate client, right? And meaning a woman who was working in a corporate space
Mm-hmm.
and who felt she wasn't very creative, so she needed a stylist. So what I would try to do is not just work on her wardrobe, but teach her the principles of some basic principles of styling so that she would know how to style herself and pick pieces in the future that she could use in multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would find, like 3 to 6 months later, they would send me like photos of themselves, like, oh, look at this outfit that I made, and I realized that or rather they would realize that they have it within them to be far more creative than they initially realized. They
Mm-hmm.
just weren't applying it, or they just never thought of themselves in that way, because they work in one particular sector.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that was just always so beautiful to witness that, they have a really, and in some cases, very strong artistic nature that maybe as children they were told that they weren't or they didn't have or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's always really nice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, Guys, if you have any questions or if we've just answered everything you need to know about the circular economy and fashion, that's great. But
Because we can keep talking about it for
we've
sure.
just we've just solved the entire circular economy problem in fashion in the 20 minutes that we've been chatting.
But what's your opinion about circular economy? What's your experience?
Uh, my I've been involved with the Garage Sale Trail for 8 years, so I've hosted a sale on the Garage Sale Trail every year, and it's just amazing to see how passionate people are about buying secondhand, and I've seen the stigma between about secondhand shopping change so much over that time,
Yeah.
from the moment I started till now, where people would kind of turn up their nose at you when you say that something is secondhand or from the op shop, and they assume that it's dirty or smelly or old, or it's
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
a dead person's.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, which I'm like, the quality is impeccable, and it can be washed and cleaned again, so there's no issue there. But it's just been so great to see how much people are embracing secondhand and contributing to the circular economy. And I think for a lot of people, they don't realize that they are already contributing to the circular economy. So if you're buying from an op shop or buying from Depop or online, anywhere, if you're using, like, going to a zero waste place and buying stuff with jars or without plastic.
Yeah.
There are so many little things that we do in our everyday lives now that have become normal that are actually a part of the circular economy. And I think it's just great to acknowledge that everyone's already at that starting point, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I used to get that too. I lived in a smaller town, Canberra, before I moved
Mm-hmm.
to Melbourne. I moved to Sydney, and there it was so new to people, right? And to a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people. And I used to get that, when that kind of like, oh, why would you wear, I can't believe you're proud to wear stuff you bought from Salvo's kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, dude, your house is second, third, fifth hand. Your car
Yeah.
is second, third hand. Like, really get like seriously, come on. It just, I
Yeah.
was just like, most of the things you're using are actually second, fifth, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
this isn't very different, There's
Yeah.
actually a question.
Yeah.
How can
Beautiful.
work better with charity stores so that we send only good clothes overseas? Should we still be sending unwanted fashion overseas?
That is an
Right.
excellent question. Nina, do you want to?
I'm trying to see who the name of who sent it.
Kath.
Oh, Catherine. Kath Iron. All right. Yeah. How can councils work better with charity stores? Okay, so it's just going to be, I think, my opinion is just going to be a case of sorting, some kind of program where councils and charity shops sort out clothes better that are going to be sent overseas for quality. Um, and that's something to work out between the charity shops and the councils. I can't tell them how to do that, but that's something that I'm sure that could easily be organized, whether it's through volunteers, whether it's through paid employees, preferably paid employees, but I don't know. That's something that they can work out. And the second question is, should we still be sending unwanted fashion overseas? This is not an easy one to answer, because the straight up answer you want to say, by the way, I just wrote a long article about this, and I have to warn everyone, it's very long. So I would say approach it like a mini book. It has 4 or 5 sections. So read one section, come back, read the next section. But there's so much in it about this particular topic. And I just strongly recommend everyone read it, because it goes into deeper issues about why we can't just stop importing straight away, although it seems like the logical thing to do. We should definitely start sending only quality items. But if we suddenly stop, you'll have secondhand garment workers will suffer destitution. So you know how, like, with fast fashion at the front end, we talk so much about, if we suddenly stop buying fast fashion, it's the garment workers who will suffer straight away, because they don't have an alternative. And that's why they're doing that work, because they don't have an alternative. So we have to scale it down carefully and gradually and monitor it step by step. It's kind of the same thing with this back end or secondhand garment workers in the South. I think we need to scale back, but we also need to do it in a way that's safe, just, and fair and equal for them, so that they don't lose out. And it's really complex, because how do we do that and ensure that they still have work, they still have livelihoods, So part of it will have to be done in tandem with the local governments of the South, of those countries, I think, or organizations or institutions, maybe. But I think these are conversations that we need to have, which is why I wrote that article, because there's so many issues involved. There's things like international trade agreements where, countries in the global north, that's richer countries, force that trash, quote unquote, onto countries in the South as part of an agreement. And if they don't take it, they get blacklisted from other benefits of trade. So it's really more complex than that. But I think that if we start talking about it and have these conversations, collectively, we can come up with better solutions that work for environmentally, and also work for people in the South. Now, on the other side of it, if I think most people watched a documentary about Ghana, the ABC documentary about toxic landfill. The other side of it for us is that if we decided we're suddenly going to stop sending these clothes overseas, we have to come up with a plan as well. Because just imagine all of that, all those clothes. I think it's 30 million garments that are shipped to Ghana a week, right? From Australia. Imagine all of that is suddenly in our shores and we can't ship them. We would be flooded. That's when we'd actually realize the enormity of this issue, right? So we also have to plan for ourselves what we are going to do if one, we're no longer shipping unwanted clothes, and two, if we are still shipping, but we're shipping only quality clothes, because it'll still be only maybe like 10 to maybe 20% that we'll send in that case. So there's so much to consider about this. I'm sorry we don't have a straightforward answer. I wish I did. I think it's just an issue that's just part of a circular economy issue again, that is just way over our heads for the time being. So yeah, I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, we've got another complex question as well. How can we get government on board with encouraging and writing policies to drive us towards a circular fashion movement? And that comes from Rochelle.
How can we get government on board? I would say, I think through councils, first of all, and through, I think there's always government initiatives like waste programs. I don't know of any specifically. I just moved to New South Wales, so I don't know what they are at the moment, but I do know that they're in the past, from other states I've seen, there are grants and initiatives where, you know, the waste sector or environmental departments are looking for options of either recycling or, you know, people to come up with ideas for the circular economy. So I think it would be through that. And I think you can also propose initiatives to councils as well. I think, is that a system? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Yeah, but there was one I did propose when I was living in Melbourne to the Victoria state government about clothes swaps, having them as a sort of a program for schools and local councils as a regular program. So every sort of week, every couple of weeks or every month, organizations have them. You know, they have them in the local libraries on weekends, in the, you know, some other parts of the councils, and if schools have them, because if you think about like schools, children, they grow so fast out of clothes, right? And if you have, you know, where you have single parents or financially disadvantaged parents, if clothes are constantly being recycled and swapped, then I think that takes off some of the financial burden on parents, right? Because I mean, why buy so many new clothes for kids when they just grow out of it so fast? You know, especially younger kids. So it just makes sense. It's just common sense. And of course, maternity. The number of friends I have in my entire life that have gotten pregnant and they can't, for the entire duration of their pregnancy, can't find clothes to fit is crazy. I think it's not the first time a woman has gotten pregnant in our history. You know? And this keeps happening. I think, why don't we, well, the more I say that, I think maybe I should do it, but I think it would be good if we had like a platform or platforms specifically tailored to that, you know, glamorous maternity or whatever, sustainable maternity, or, you know, ethical maternity, where people can, you know, at different stages of their pregnancy, for example, you know, trade in clothes, you know, until they don't need them anymore.
That's a brilliant idea. That's really brilliant.
Yeah, I think there's so much to this circular economy thing. You know, this is why we need to keep talking. All these business ideas keep getting hatched. You know, maybe you and I should do something, partners. You know, but you know, it's just the beautiful thing about having conversations. You know, and it's great that you've provided this platform that we can talk about these things, because that's how ideas are born. In some cases.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I think because one of the aspects of this year's campaign is we really want to help people learn about all of this. So learn about waste management and circular economy and how to get into the secondhand market if that's something they're interested in. So I'm so thrilled that you were able to jump on with us today. It's been an absolute joy. I just want to remind everyone as well that Nina will be a part of a really great trail tutorial on November 6th with Natalie Isaacs and Kit Willer, and they're going to be chatting all about why smart women choose sustainable and the sustainability in the fashion industry, and that'll be a really, really interesting panel to watch. So I have the link in the bio, but yeah, remember to sign up for that one, because I mean, I'm so excited to watch you guys chat about it. It's going to be really, really good.
I'm really excited too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you so much. I'm going to leave it there and let you get started with your weekend. I hope that you have a good one and that the weather holds out for you. Thank you so much to everyone who could join, and thank you for everyone who asked a question. We know it's a big topic, and I really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us, Nina. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Thanks so much. All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.